So, hi Rebecca, how are you and how have things been?
I'm good. Things have been a bit hectic in my life lately, but I'm doing well overall.
And like hectic, how? Because of your show and everything, or just life in general?
Definitely life in general. I got into a really bad bike accident about 2 months ago, and I broke my nose and I knocked my teeth out and I sprained my wrist and was looking crazy for a little while. So I'm mostly recovered from that, but that definitely like threw a wrench in my summer plans. So that was the craziest thing. And then yeah, just a lot of chaos in my life, good and bad. Yeah.
So the good chaos is also good, and bad chaos is also good because since you are a writer and someone who and you're an artist, so I sometimes think that bad chaos is good because after a certain while it turns into some material, I guess.
Yes, it's true. It's very inspiring.
Yeah, that is I think that is one of the best thing about anyone who is an artist, that whatever happens in your life, at the end of the day, after a certain time, you can like bring something to it.
Yes. Yeah, and chaos too, like, nothing ever goes as planned. And I think artists are great at kind of incorporating the unexpected of our lives into our work. And also, it just helps you have a perspective of gratitude when, things don't go as planned, but sometimes they work out better than you could have hoped.
And how did you start as an artist? What was the first thing you did? First play you performed, or first writing you did? Anything? What was the first in your life as an artist?
I would say it started when I was a kid. I auditioned for the school play and I was really shy and scared and I did not get a part. And then the play performed for the school and I saw the play and was like, I think it was The Little Red Riding Hood. And I
Ah,
watched the play in awe and was like, oh my God, like I want to do that. That looks so fun. So the next year when the play came around, I tried really hard and I got a part. And yeah, the rest was history.
and what was the role that you got? And was it a comic role or just, like the little kids hanging around kind of role?
I'd say it was kind of funny. Like there was a trio of birds, and I played
Yeah.
Glenn the Gull. She was a seagull, and they were songbirds. So that was very fun.
And you have come really far from playing a bird to kind of a pig character now.
Exactly. From bird to pig. I'll make my way through the whole animal kingdom eventually. Yes, pig. Pig was fun. Pig is. I don't know. I don't even really know how that happened, but I do really like animals and find a lot of inspiration in animals. Animals have such strong personalities, and I've always been a big fan of the Chinese zodiac and what that means and how animals kind of represent different personality traits. So, yeah.
I'm a pig, by the way.
You are a pig?
Wood
You're
pig.
very lucky. Pigs are very lucky, they say.
I
Would you
hope so. I am a word pig.
sound lucky?
And what was the first solo thing you did?
Okay, so I never considered myself to be a solo artist. I always preferred to work in collaboration with other people, which is why I think so much of this show is revolved around the audience participating in it with me. So it's a solo show, but it's rarely just me. And even when it is me, it's Joel is up there with me. But this is my first solo thing. And I started doing small solo clown acts and then stand-up comedy as well, when you're on stage from 3 to 8 minutes by yourself. And yeah, so I guess stand-up comedy was technically the first solo thing that I ever did.
And do you remember the first room you performed in and the first laugh that you got as a stand-up artist?
I do. I did stand-up comedy for the first time when I was in high school, and it created a big stink. I did for our senior class, always had like a senior project. A lot of schools did some variation of this. So for your senior project, create something and then write about it. And it was supposed to be impactful to the community in some way. And so people would do like a community cleanup or, various things of that nature. And I decided that I wanted to put on a comedy show. So I was very ambitious as a teenager. So I put on a show. I had a friend of mine open for me. And then, I did, I don't know, like 30, 45 minutes of stand-up comedy as like a 16-year-old. And I talked about my job at the time in high school and like, those kind of typical teenage life, day in the life sort of things. And I don't think it was even very funny, but it was just really fun. I always really loved performing. And I talked about my job a lot. And I was a food runner and like a busser at a local restaurant. And I talked about my boss and, the dynamics at work. And I put this special on YouTube. And I encouraged my boss and my friends to watch it, people who couldn't come see the show in person. And they came and they watched the show, which I was very proud of at the time. And they were horrified and very angry. And they called me and they threatened to sue me. And they said I was a horrible person and that I said awful things about their business, which I think I called someone a bitch. I mean, I don't know. I don't think any of it was that crazy, but it made them very upset. And so after that, I didn't do stand-up comedy for a really long time because I thought that doing it made me a bad person.
Oh, that's not it. You were just trying to be funny.
I know. It was a weird overreaction on their part, I think. So,
but still, a 16-year-old performing on the stage for like 35 to 40 minutes, it requires tremendous stage confidence.
Yes, I definitely didn't have a shortage of confidence at that age. I often try to channel that version of myself when I'm feeling afraid.
But it's really difficult. Like you've already said, that it's difficult for you to play the character of yourself rather than to play a character of someone else.
Yes, playing other people is a privilege because you kind of get to put your own life, your own thoughts, feelings, and experiences down and pick up the idea, of someone else and imagine yourself as another person. So I do find that very freeing.
And you said just before this conversation, you said that your like school wanted you to do something that would like send out a message, and you chose comedy. So do you think it's easier to convey messages from comedy rather than being serious and everything?
That's a good question. I think for me, my way of dissecting the world and the endless horrors through a comedic lens is more entertaining, frankly, and enjoyable, because so many terrible things happen in your personal life and then on a grander scale in the world every day. And I think laughter, as a coping mechanism is a really great way to digest some of what's happening and maintain the truth of it, because comedy does more than just make fun of things. It also siphons the truth of whatever the thing is. And it flips it on its head. And I think it makes it digestible. So comedy is my favorite way, but I'm a fan of a good drama as well.
So, and when you talk about comedy and drama or any kind of play that you put on, do you think it does more than just performing? Do you think it heals you or maybe act like your venting space or something like that?
I think performing feels like something that I have to do. I can't remember a time when I didn't feel like I needed to do it. So I think performing is kind of a selfish act in that way. But it's also a way to build community, because you cannot perform without an audience. Performing for yourself alone in your room is not very exciting. Performing for a room full of people who love you and care about you is terrifying. And performing for a room full of strangers who don't know you and don't owe you anything, and getting them on your side is the most gratifying, like joyful feeling, because people, your parents and your friends come to see your shows and they love you no matter what you do. But someone who has no idea who you are, who comes to your show on a whim, or because they heard about it from a friend of a friend or whatever, or they just happen to stumble into the back of the bar that I'm performing at that night, that stays to watch you and says, "Hey, I really love your show," or "Oh, you were so funny." Like that feels the best, you know?
Can you remember such a moment in your life, any moment, when an audience member came to you and told you that they love your performance and it, like it felt something, anything, any moment?
I mean, there's probably been a lot of moments of that. I think I think the moments that stand out to me are performances where I got off the stage and was like, "Oh god, like that was not my best work." And somebody in the crowd was like, "Oh my god, I loved what you did. I love what you said." Or like even when you just go to an open mic and you bomb and nobody laughs or maybe one person laughs, but then somebody after the show pulls you aside and is like, "I really liked your joke about this." Yeah, just to kind of remind you that like art is subjective and comedy itself is subjective. You know, what I find funny or what you find funny or whoever in the audience finds funny isn't going to be the same as the next person. Um, so you can be surprised at who connects with what you have to say. And sometimes, you're your own worst critic and you're like, "Oh God, that sucked. I was so bad." And someone was like, "I thought that was great," you know?
But do you think that it's always the audience whose opinions matter when you are performing?
To me, yes. I perform for the audience for sure. And I think like with this show, The Pigs Next Door, the show is really about the audience. It's of course it's about me, and it's about Joel, my very important husband. But what it really is about is giving the audience a chance to feel important and to remember that they are the reason that anyone's there. Because I can't put on the show without them, and I don't want to. They're just as much a part of the show as me. Even though I'm the one arranging it and I'm the one on stage, even though I do bring people on stage as well. Yeah, the show is for the audience. Broadway, you go to a Broadway show, the show isn't for the actors. The show is for the people who
Yeah.
buy the tickets. You go to see a movie. The movie isn't for the big empty room or the screen. The movie is for the people who pay to see it. So I think audiences need to really remember that they're crucial. They're so important, and we couldn't do it without them. We need them.
And in your show, The Pigs Next Door, the audience are your neighbors.
Yes, the audience are my neighbors, exactly. So I'm kind of using the model of a traditional sitcom like The Nanny or Full House, where, we live in this world where the audience is, the people, the pigs next door. So they know what's going on. They're in the room with us, no matter what room we go into. And then as the play progresses and new characters are introduced, the audience members play those characters. So when I come on stage and I talk about someone, that person becomes real, and I choose someone in the audience to become that person. And then we improvise the scene together. And then I introduce the idea of another person and choose a different person in the audience, and so on and so forth.
But there is a lot of clowning in this show also, right? So
Yes.
did you ever go to clown school or something like that?
I did not go to an official clown school. I went to the Boston Conservatory and I studied contemporary theater, which was a devised theater program. So I was in an ensemble. We created our own original work. So we were acting, writing, directing, producing, and performing our original work. And we did a lot of classical training as well. Classical acting training, some method training, lots of different kind of snippets of different methods and techniques so that we could have what they called like a tool belt that you could choose what works for you, what you like, what sits well with you, what you want to incorporate into your process. And I took a clown class and I fell in love with clown. And I had this amazing clown teacher, Kate Amory, who is actually writing a book right now about teaching about clowning. And yeah, she was just like, "You really have a knack for this. Like your clown feels advanced. even though I had just done it. And so then when I moved to New York, I started doing drop-in classes with Clown Gym, which was started by Julia Proctor, who teaches clown now at NYU. I think she's taught there for quite a while. But it was an amazing group because you could come in every week. I think it was about $40, and she had different teachers come in all the time, and it was just kind of clown training. And anyone, I think, I don't know actually if there was a process of like if you had to have experience or not, but I was certainly a beginner, and so I just did that kind of religiously every week. I went to Clown Gym where clowns were working out. And learning from different teachers and trying different exercises. And it broke me wide open. And as someone who likes to talk, clown really challenges you to communicate with your body. And as an actor and as a performer, it's so crucial that we are embodied in our process. You know, you can say the words however you want, but your body shows the audience and shows yourself if you really mean it and if you really feel what you're saying. So I think I recommend clown to everyone, whether you're a performer or not, as just a great tool to get to know yourself on a deeper level and see where your impulses are and maybe question them.
See, you already answered. I was about to ask you that what did you learn about yourself from these clown courses, and you just answered that you realized that you are meant for clowning.
Yes, I think I also really learned through clown that I really like to be in charge. My clown, you play with this idea of kind of like high status or low status a lot of the time in clown in these kind of traditional dynamics. And my clown is very comfortable in a leadership position. Like she is down to be the one to call the shots, which I think is probably the biggest aspect of clown in The Pigs Next Door, because I've put the task upon myself of guiding the audience through an improvisational, immersive experience where I hand them the reins, or in this case, it's often a pink telephone, and say, this is who you are. And I trust them to become that person and to work with me. But at the end of the day, I need to kind of maintain the structure of the story so that it continues in a specific direction. So I think it takes kind of an authoritative presence to allow an audience to feel comfortable, to remind them that I'm in control. Like we've got this. You know, I'm not afraid to be like, enough, stop, you're done. Or no, more, please, go on. You know?
So let me take a wild guess. So how it goes. So like the audience member comes up, plays a character. He says something. You agree with the audience member. You turn it into a punchline, and then you somehow pave the way for the audience member to like behave in the way that you wanted them to, so that you can like progress the story.
Yeah, I'd say that's a great guess. I don't bring up audience members onto the stage right away. So I will come onto the stage, talk to Joel about a person. I'll be like, oh my God, Joel, you're never going to believe what happened at the diner. It was a mess. Denise got arrested. So I give Joel and the audience all of the backstory about what happened. And then I'm like, okay, I got to go down to the station. I got to figure out what's going on. I got to go talk to her. So they're expecting me to talk to Denise. I throw someone in the audience a pink telephone. I have my own pink telephone. And I'm like, oh my God, Denise, how are you holding up? They don't even get out of their chair. They just stay right where they are. And she knows who she is. And she just heard all this information about herself because I just told everybody and I told Joel. And then, I ask them questions and they can answer however they want. And yeah, I riff off of them. We riff together and I create, I talk to her about who she is to me. I'm like, we've been friends for so long. That teeny sentence tells an audience member all they need to know about their dynamic. Everyone in the audience knows what it's like to have a lifelong friend. So they automatically know how to relate to me and how to interact with me. I try to pick people. I like to think I have a good sense of who's down and who's not. Like some audience members don't want to be picked. They don't want to be chosen. Yeah. They don't want to be talked to. They don't want to be heckled. They don't want to do crowd work. This maybe isn't the show for them, but at the same time, there's plenty of room for people to pass. Like I did an excerpt of this show at the Idiot's Hour, which is an amazing clown show that happens every Wednesday. That's run by Matthew Silver. And it is an amazing format for clowns and for performance artists and all sorts of people to try out new work and work out new bits. And I did a lot of this show's development at those shows. And one night I did this bit of the show where I'm expecting a package from Amazon. And I'm like, Joel, have you gotten my package yet? And of course, Joel doesn't ever get up out of his chair because he can't walk. And I'm like, fine, I'll go get it myself. And I'm like, I'm going down to the driveway and I'm getting the Amazon package myself. And I see the Amazon guy and I'm like, hey, you Amazon guy. And the guy's like, me? I'm like, yeah, you work for Amazon, right? And he's like, no, I don't work for Amazon. And I was like, oh, my bad. Sorry. And I moved on to the next person because he didn't want to do it. And that was actually the best gift that he could have given me, because I don't want to force anyone to do something they don't want to do. You know, I want somebody who is down to play. And it was really funny. Like everyone laughed so loud when he said, no, I don't work for Amazon. I was like, oh my, you know, it works. It works for the show. So I like, as much as the audience is important and needs to participate in the show, they have full autonomy to be a passive person watching the show if they wish.
And you already mentioned that you like to have the control of the room, but the kind of show you're mentioning, and since you're performing in New York, you must be performing in LA, I don't know. The crowd out there, they are very like, when you like go to crowd work, they are very kind of, you know, hecklers, you can say. So have you ever met a heckler?
Yes, I did have once a guy who was almost, because that's the other side of the coin, right? On one side of the coin, you have someone who's like, please don't talk to me, I don't want to do this, like, please don't make me do this. And then the other side is the person who's too eager and like wants the show to kind of be about them.
Yeah.
And that's the balance that for me, I think is really fun to try to find the gift of someone who's eager and excited about being a part of it. Like this show is meant for people like that. But also remembering that like, this is Peg's moment. It's about Peg, you know? So I have had, I've had hecklers, and I had one guy who comes to mind in particular who he was really funny, and he was, he was eager to like get up on the stage. I hadn't even invited him up. He was just going to come up on his own. And I was like, oh, you just break into people's houses, you know? And it was a really funny moment where we had developed with the audience. It was like, I'm in my house right now and you're in the driveway. So, you're just going to walk in here? I don't think that's cool. You know, and that was enough to gently and politely let him know, like, oh, this is where the boundary is of the world of the play, without shutting him down completely, and maintaining like this sense of, you know, this is just for fun and it's just a joke. But I haven't, thankfully, not yet. I haven't had anything too crazy happen.
Well, that's a good thing. And since your show required so much improvisation, have you been at Improv?
Yes, I've done a lot of improv in my life. I did improv in high school a ton. And then when I was in college, for the fall semester of my senior year, I knew at that point that I really wanted to do an emphasis on comedy. And so I had pitched to my administration, like, hey, if I go to LA and take some improv classes and audition for a couple things, and I'm able to get in to take these courses, will you allow those credits to transfer and to count basically as college credits? And they were like, yeah, sure. Which was the best part about being in a new program. I was in the first year of this brand new program that was really being discovered. Like what it was being invented as each day went on. So we had a lot of autonomy in that way, which was very cool, and an amazing privilege. And so I went to LA and I auditioned for the Groundlings, and I did improv through the Groundlings, and I did improv at the Upright Citizens Brigade. And then I also did improv at the LA Connection Theater, which was like this little theater in Burbank. And out of all of those classes that I took, that one was my favorite by far. I think because the stakes were low you weren't paying like $500 or $600 for a course. It was just like $100 for the month. You kind of came in. It was one dude in the back who was smoking cigs, and he threw us like a bucket of hats and led us through these really zany exercises. And people were just so free to play and to have fun. Whereas when I was at the Groundlings and when I was at UCB, I felt immense pressure to perform well and to be funny. And I think everyone was kind of like, tense. And improvisation is all about following your impulses. And you can't be free to follow your impulses if you're judging yourself and you're judging your partner. You can really only find that flow when you're just in the moment and you're listening and you're able to listen to yourself and you're able to listen to the people on stage with you. So I learned a lot about improv during that kind of 6-month period. And there was a lot of it that I didn't like. And there was a lot of it that I really did like. And I think it's really about who you're doing it with and how you respect each other. And so this show is really trying to foster a room where the audience feels safe to improvise. And that's assuming that, in New York, sure, maybe a lot of the audience might be comprised of comedians, but I'm so curious to see how this show does in rural Ohio, where no one has done improv necessarily in their whole life, and they're encouraged to in that moment. So I'm eager to see how it goes.
And improv is all about, whatever the other person says, you have to like simply agree to them and then tell your line or perform whatever. So has there ever been like any instances in improv when the two person on the stage were like, going against each other or something like that? Did you have a very difficult improv class or something like that?
Yes, absolutely. I'm on an indie improv team called Surprise. And something that I've learned through improvising with these folks that's been really helpful to me is that you actually don't have to agree with your scene partner. You're allowed to say no, and you're allowed to argue. But I think like this idea of like yes and all about agreement is about agreeing to the world that you're in and to the relationship that you have. If you are improvising as a couple, couples fight. Couples argue all the time. And that's actually a really funny thing to watch. So it's not always like, oh, yes, honey, yes, I did this. And oh, and yes, I'll do that too. That's kind of boring. It's actually more interesting to be like, did you take out the trash? No. Well, why not? I don't know. Oh, okay. This is a problem with you. You don't take out the trash enough. Okay, well, you're always on my back. It's like, well, people respond better, or I think as an audience, when I'm an audience member, I find it more interesting to watch relationships play out that are unpredictable and that are also human and relatable. So maybe the person is saying like, no, I didn't take out the trash, but they are still living in the world in which you're my domestic partner and my responsibility is to take out the trash and I just didn't do it.
And what has been the most difficult thing for you to do, since you mentioned like stand-up, clowning, improv?
Stand-up is by far the hardest and the scariest form of comedy out of all of the ones that I do. And I think I have the least amount of experience in it. So I would say stand-up is really tough. And I think that part of what makes stand-up hard is, I mean, God, there's so many things that make it hard. But when you're improvising, you don't have to prepare anything. All you have to do is show up. And you have a whole team of people, or maybe even just one other person to rely on. And to
you can bounce off them.
Exactly. And when I'm doing a solo show, like when I play Peg, I wrote all that material, but I'm not me. I'm Peg. And I can really like lean into this character that I've created. When I'm doing stand-up, it's so personal. I'm talking about stuff that I've really experienced, things that I've, have really happened to me, or dynamics or things I've really observed in life. And when it's not funny, it's like, like it's really humiliating to be bad at it. and it's really addicting.
Now talking about your show, The Pigs Next Door. So first thing I would like to know that how did the character of Peg came into your mind?
So Peg started, she was actually born out of a prompt for an audition. The prompt was, you just got a call from the IRS. That was it. That was the whole prompt. And you had to do a 30-second monologue, improvised monologue. And so I thought about this prompt and I was like, well, who would be getting a call from the IRS? And I had just seen this new musical about turkeys in LA. And it was really inspiring. And I guess I thought, well, who would be getting a call from the IRS is the third little pig from the Three Little Pigs. What if the oldest brother actually hired the big bad wolf to destroy his siblings' homes because he wanted the insurance money? And what if he got caught by the IRS? So I did this kind of monologue where I was like on the phone with the big bad wolf as this pig character. And I did like a kind of Long Island, like New Jersey accent. I don't know. That's just like what came out of me. And I often work from a place of like, well, what do I already have? And I had a pig costume. So I had pig ears and I put them on and I did this monologue. And I really enjoyed the character and I had so much fun. I was like cracking myself up doing this pig monologue. And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe I could like try a little character like at the idiot's hour as this pig person. And I did it and it was really fun. And I got really great feedback from some friends in the audience that were like, oh, I really like that. What if you tried this? What if the pig did this? Or what if this person was involved or whatever? And I did it again. And then I involved my stuffed animal, Joel, who I've had since I was a little kid, who is a pig. And I put him on stage with me. And I was like, what if I'm playing out like a domestic dispute with my stuffed pig? And it's funny because he can't argue back because he's a stuffed animal. He can't talk. And that had been inspired from a clown thing that I had done a year ago where I did a tea party intervention. And I like laid all my stuffed animals out and I gave everybody tea like you do when you're a kid. And then I sat down and I was like, I hate to do this, but this is actually an intervention because Pikachu is addicted to cocaine and it's ruining all of our lives. And we're all here going to explain how we've been impacted by Pikachu's coke addiction. And so that's kind of what had drawn the inspiration of Joel and like this dynamic with Joel and Joel being a stuffed animal. That was really fun. So I incorporated Joel into it. And then I did a bunch of different versions of it. And it was me just talking to Joel and fighting with Joel. And I'm always thinking about, and clown urges you to do this because there's no fourth wall in clown, to think about what the audience is feeling and thinking. And I was like, well, why is this interesting for the audience? And how can I make it more interesting for them? And I was like, well, it'd be more interesting if they were involved. So instead of just talking to Joel about the people in this world, I was like, well, what if I make the audience be the people in this world? And then it started to develop more and more from there. And after I had done, a couple of 10-minute iterations of this over like a year-long period, I was like, there's something here. There's really something here. There could be like a whole world in this. And so I did a longer version and a longer version, and it slowly just kind of started to fill out. And I have taken voice lessons, singing lessons since I was a kid. I to sing, and I've always been afraid of singing in public and in person. And I was working with my voice teacher, Astar Cohen, and we were talking about our goals. And I was like, I really want to incorporate music into this show, and I really want to sing in this show. I want to show off. It's a solo show. You got to pull out all your tricks, And I was like, I'm a good singer. I need to put myself out there. And so I wrote lyrics for this idea of a song for Joel, and Astar composed the music. And so we kind of created this original song that's now in the show. And in this next version, this newest version of The Pigs Next Door, which is happening on the 3rd of September, I'm going to sing another song as well. So I'm incorporating more music into the show, which has been really fun. But yeah, the character was really born from an audition. And then it just kept growing there.
That's a wonderful story. That is a beautiful story because you just like prove that if you're consuming more and more content, more and more plays, whatever you love,
Yeah.
ideas can come because your ideas came from turkeys, an audition and the turkeys.
Yes.
So if you I think the more and more content that you consume makes you a better artist.
Yeah. I think supporting other people's art is crucial. And anytime I'm feeling like, oh, I'm uninspired or I'm feeling like depressed or like, I just need a pick me up, go and see someone perform. Go and watch someone that you don't even know. And you don't need to go see a big expensive show. Go sit in the audience at an open mic. Go, go watch somebody do something that you don't do. Like one of my favorite things to do is to watch my friends dance. I have quite a few friends who are dancers. I'm not a dancer. And I sit and I watch them dance and I cry my eyes out because what they are capable of doing is so beautiful and moving. And it's really different from what I do. And that makes me appreciate it even more because I'm like, God, I wish I could do that. Like I've got this great friend, she's in Battery Dance Company, and they're amazing. They're so amazing to watch. And they put on free shows in the city. So you can just go and sit in a park and watch people perform
Oh,
for free. Like that's the magic of living in a city like New York City. There's always something going on. And even if you don't want to go to a show, you get on the subway. And what are the odds that some guy's like kicking his hat up into the air and flipping around on the bar? Like there's always a show going on, anywhere you look,
obviously.
you can find you can find a performance.
See, in India, like in US, you have very quiet streets when you like look out a window. In India, when we look out our window, we'll always see like there are two people fighting or there are so many cars colliding. So it's always a show out there. And another thing, I believe that the art form you are in, when you go to watch the art form you are in, you
Mm,
like always get a little bit critical, or you get into like
totally.
student mode that okay, I'll learn something from it. But when you go to watch an art that you're not related to, you just simply enjoy.
Yes, that's a great point. I completely agree.
And since you also like said it in the beginning that this show is like the Nanny or Full House,
Hmm.
where the fourth wall is the audience. So,
Yes.
what shows shaped you as an artist?
Well, that's a great question. Like as far as TV shows, The Nanny was a huge influence. Like if The Nanny was on, I was watching it. I loved Fran. I loved her fashion. She was fabulous. I've also been a nanny for most of my adult life. I've helped raise kids all over the country. And I love children. And I taught theater for a long time with an amazing company in New York called Child's Play NY. And I really just related to her even as a kid before I was a nanny. I was just inspired by this woman who was like, in this environment that she didn't really fit into. Like she was like kind of a sassy, outspoken, wild, irreverent lady from Queens, and she's in this very like posh kind of environment where she's expected to behave and to maybe be something that she's not, and she challenged the expectations of the world of that show. Similarly, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I grew up watching shows like that where same kind of format,
Yeah,
he
an
moves,
outsider comes in.
an outsider comes in and he blows up their whole world and he makes everybody better for it. And he also learns something, but he's changing the world that he's in. And Full House was unconventional. It was like this giant
Yeah.
family of like comprised of people who didn't always get along. And there was a lot of sisters. I have two sisters. My mother was the oldest of five daughters. So I grew up in a family with a lot of very outspoken women who certainly don't always get along and always have an opinion about what the other person is doing or not doing. So there's definitely a lot of inspiration like from my own life, but I also watched a lot of, I watched Disney Channel just like anybody else. Like I watched Hannah Montana, and she's kind of leading this double life. So I was really attracted to these big characters in shows that were kind of, they were I don't want to say anti-hero, but like they were the protagonist, but there was always a conflict and there was
Conflict.
always an obstacle. There was always this something that needed to be managed and overcome. And there was always like some chaos. And even, shows like The Sopranos is not a comedy, but the characters are so rich in that story. And any single one of them, you could follow their arc, and it's some masterclass in how to create a
Yeah.
character and a three-dimensional sort of being. So I actually use for like my transitional moments in the show, I use those sound bites from shows like Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm and Hannah Montana, where like when I'm transitioning into a new place, it'll be like, whoa, so I'm really incorporating this idea of like, I want the audience to feel like they're in the neighborhood that the sitcom is happening in. Like if they were on the set of The Nanny as well, that sort of thing.
I think the character you described that you like is basically all of Disney character. Like you take shows like Lizzie McGuire, That's So Raven, even Wizards of Waverly Place, the Selena Gomez character.
That's So Raven. Yes, Wizards of Waverly Place. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they had like a secret that they needed to conceal. And I also watched a lot of animated shows. Like I'm a cartoon person. I mean, I grew up on SpongeBob, but I loved shows like The Proud Family. These kind of family dynamics where, I loved Hey Arnold. I loved the Fairly Odd Parents, and in all these shows, like there's a Jimmy Neutron, like there's an element of there's something spectacular about these kids or about the family or about the place that they're in. And at the same time, there's something mundane about it. They're just in a neighborhood. They're just at their parents' house. They're just, in New York City or whatever. So yeah, TV and film, like you said earlier, the more media you consume, that inspires you and it leaks into your subconscious, whether you want it to or not. So I think everything I watched as a kid, and even like the use of the stuffed animal in the show, is really an honoring and a returning to those feelings of nostalgia that you have as an adult when you look back on your childhood and what you enjoyed and what mattered to you. And like The Pigs Next Door is not deep. It's not about, you're not supposed to walk away with this like profound, oh wow, she really subverted the narrative of blah. Like it's just dumb. Like it's just the point is to just have fun. It's just to be fun. I think in our adult lives, we have to worry so much about how we're going to pay our bills and how we're going to feed ourselves and how we're going to find a job and go to work. And there are not enough spaces where you can just go and have a good time for the sake of having a good time. That's the only thing you have to do is enjoy yourself. So that's what I'm really trying to curate with The Pigs Next Door.
And your show is described as sexy and silly. So
yes. There's a little sexiness in the show. Got a little sexy in there. I think that as a woman, especially in a body like mine, you are often categorized as sexual, whether you're trying to be or not. And I think a lot of women feel the pressure to hide their sexuality because they want to be seen for more than that, or to overperform their sexuality as a way of reclaiming it. And I'm finding this interesting middle ground where my sexuality is like any human being, a part of who I am. And it's also really dumb and really stupid. And so I like the idea of people kind of having a sexpectation, if you will. When they see, a voluptuous body on stage in minimal clothing, they're like, oh, this is kind of hot. But then these things happen where you're like, oh my God, this is so bizarre. Am I turned on? Am I horny for this? Do I like this? What's going on here? Why am I this is a pig. She has a pig nose, but I like it. Like I like the idea of allowing people to hold space for multiple things at once. Like, and it
Ah,
shows so many things are true. Like Peg is sexy and she is absurd. And so it's really fun to play along with both of those things.
I would say that you're using your sexuality not to get laughs, but to like ignite multiple emotions. Like the
Yeah.
audience would be confused. Okay, am I horny or am I disgusted? But
Yeah.
whatever happens, I'm just laughing.
Right. Exactly. And I got to give credit where credit's due. Like a big part of my inspiration with the burlesque that happens in this show at the end as a surprise, which I'm giving away now, is inspired by and frankly just taken from a really dear friend of mine who's helped so much in the development process of this show. Her name is Becca Kenziani. And she does this clown burlesque where she plays these characters and she's doing burlesque, but it's hilarious. And there's a narrative or a story in the character or in whatever, scenario that she's chosen for herself that is hilarious and so funny and so fun to watch. And she's still taking her clothes off. And it's still burlesque. And I was so inspired by that. So she has helped me, as well as my friend Lucia has helped me kind of choreograph and curate this moment at the end where the character itself throughout the show, she's flirty, she's a sexy pig woman, but at the end when she does burlesque, it's really bad. It's not hot. It's actually insane and really funny and so stupid. And that's the scariest part of the show for me, for sure. It is like so scary, but it just has to happen. It's just what's meant to be. So,
But it must be a little bit difficult, right? Not a little bit, but like it must be a lot difficult because you're starting your show as a sexy kind of pig,
mhm.
and then you're ending it in a note where people might be like disgusted by it in some
Yes,
way.
totally. Yes. And just taking your clothes off is so vulnerable. Take
Yeah, but
your clothes off on stage. It's like you're just like, here I am, And I think again, like there's so much pressure as a young woman in society to be perceived as attractive. And so getting to set up an expectation of like the audience is like, oh, I get to see this like attractive person take their clothes off, and then doing it in a way where you're like, oh my God, I don't even know what to say. I'm like, don't know whether I should laugh or throw up or come, or I don't know what's going on. Like that's so fun because I don't have to. I'm freeing myself from the shackles of like performing sexuality and like performing my value by being attractive. And in this show, and I think in the character of just being a pig in general and all the connotations that come with the idea of a pig, them being dirty or fat or messy or smelly, are really fun because they're continuing that process of freeing myself from the shackles of being, perceived in a way that's valuable to society, which is to be beautiful and to be attractive and sexy and hot. And I can be all of those things as a pig and be very silly at the same time.
so now, what's your favorite part about the show? If you have two options, the musical that you're doing, the
Mhm.
new musical you're doing, or this like horrific burlesque show.
Oh gosh. I mean, it's funny that you gave me those two options because those are the two scariest moments for me. Singing is really scary for me, and then of course the burlesque is really scary. But I think my favorite to do is to sing. I love to sing this song that a star composed for Joel because it gives us the backstory of their love story. And that's kind of what at the end of the day, the show's really all about their relationship, Peg and Joel. And it's and when we're in relationship with people, especially for a long time, we see so many people like our parents and our friends, fall in and out of love and get divorced and split up and come back together. And it's such a universal part of life that everyone can relate to, even though it's happening on stage with a human being and a stuffed animal.
Yeah.
It's still relatable, and so I like the singing. The singing is the most fun for me to do because it's really emotional, and it's kind of like the soft side of the show, the vulnerable and touching, unexpectedly touching part of the show, I would say is the music. Yeah.
And last question. So you're making multiple transitions in the show, as I can like guess. So you will be like doing this solo performance with Joel at the starting. So you will be kind of, that angry housewife kind of.
Yes.
Then you would be like playing different, not you would be like playing with different characters in the audience, and then at the end you would be like confidently underconfident with the burlesque show, basically, I would say.
Mhm.
So how does this transition go? You mentioned music, but how difficult was it to make the transition?
So it's interesting because it's really just verbal. The set doesn't change. And I could see, in an advanced, in the Broadway production of The Pigs Next Door, when I have a huge budget, I could totally see a set design change. And that would be really fun to have the set change. Like when I go to the jail, there's a jail behind me. Or when I'm out in the driveway with the Amazon, we see the Amazon truck behind me. But in this low budget production, um, it's just me saying verbally, "I'm at the jail now." Like that. It's that simple. And then there's kind of music to, just like in a sitcom, because I think a lot of people have watched shows
Yeah.
like that where we know, the scene's changing and the music's playing. It kind of cues us in to know that, like, oh, a shift is happening. But in this production at the Brooklyn Art House, this will be my first time working with a full lighting grid, which is really exciting. So I'm collaborating with a lighting designer, and that is going to help us indicate those big transitional moments as well. So I'm really excited for that new element
Mhm.
in the show. Yeah.
So all the best for your show,
Thank
and
you.
I'm pretty sure it will go well because it has so many elements. And I hope you like this interview also. And it was
It was
like,
so fun. Thank you so much for your time. It was awesome to chat with you and talk about the process.
yeah, because I told you, like, people promote the show and the audience are like, okay, it's just a show promotion, it's nothing else. But I think when they know about the audience, like comedian more, the artist more, they would be like connected to the artist, and for further works also they would be stay connected.
Yes, I love that. That's a really great way to show, behind the scenes of what's happening in the artist's head. I love that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Chat with you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.